Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Logan aka Frostfire, and 3 days ago, the Battlefield 2042 beta happened. And the reactions to it were mixed. The elevators were completely bugged, everybody hated the specialist including me, and there was no voice chat, text chat, or pinging. Despite all this, I honestly had a blast playing it on the 2 days it was available for. But I also noticed some glaring issues that I feel the need to address. And with that, I'd like to jump to my first point of critique I had with the beta. The map. Despite the fact that this is the biggest Battlefield map we've ever seen in the series, most of my fighting was done on this relatively small rooftop on B1 and this tiny ass pitch black hallway. The reason for this is because the map is incohesive. Its fighting structure reminds me more of PlanetSide 2 than it does any Battlefield game. There's no real front line on the map for you and the enemy team to fight over, or obvious direction where you should rotate in accordance with the game's current progression. There's just a shit ton of objectives thrown haphazardly across this gigantic fucking map without any real intention behind it. And because of this, you don't really get to experience the true scale that comes from having a 128 player Battlefield game, because fights end up occurring all across the gigantic map, completely independent of each other. It's almost like having 3 separate matches of Battlefield all happening at the same time on the same map, except all the fights happen really far away from each other completely separately and feed into the same scoreboard. The overall scale and intensity of the gameplay does not yet match what's advertised, and I feel like a big reason for that is because of the aforementioned giant-ass map. It almost reminds me of Call of Duty Blackout with how stitched together the map feels. Overall 1 out of 10. I can only hope that this is a map-specific issue and that other maps don't share the same design philosophy, because an actual 128-player map would be so fucking awesome. But instead, we're left with fights that feel even less intense than some games of Operation Locker I've had. Moving on though, I'd like to address the elephant in the room. Specialists. Specialists have created a massive point in contention in the Battlefield community. They're almost universally disliked, yet they're one of the core changes that 2042 is making and likely aren't getting removed because of the game's projected monetization model. Me personally, I don't like them, they can get fucked. But I've skipped the 5 stages of grief and landed at acceptance because of the fact that, like with Akali, there's no way a revert is happening. The absolute best case scenario in my opinion would be to take all existing and future specialists and reintegrate them into a class system like BF4s where you can only use certain gadgets and guns on certain types of specialists. But them doing that is far from likely as it's nonsensical from a purely business perspective. I don't give a fuck about the specialists, but I do care about the gunplay. And that's because the gunplay feels fucking amazing. Seriously, I think it's at the series' best. The Vector shreds, and I genuinely think it's my favorite Battlefield gun since BF3's iteration of the M16. I had a shit ton of fun murking people with it, and I can't wait for the full release to continue. Guns overall look, feel, and sound pristine, and aside from a few gameplay changes, it's an overall upgrade. But that leads me to the aforementioned issues I have surrounding the gameplay, and that is the ammo. I do not care for the reduced ammo capacity or the new ammo types one bit, because it's balancing around you having 2 to 3 types of magazines. It really sucks because you can't ask for ammo, and it feels like it was a change that wasn't made with any real thought put into it because of the fact that you could just let the player choose a main ammo type and only give them 1 magazine of the others to incentivize teamwork, or you could introduce universal ammo and balance around that so this is a non-issue. 80 spare rounds and a single magazine is not good enough for 1 lifetime. It's almost like they're balancing around you not being alive for long or something. I also don't know why they reduced launchers to only having 3 now. It kinda fucking sucks not being able to shoot down helicopters, they just kinda spawn you if you're on the roof now, so you could definitely change that too, DICE. Speaking of unnecessary changes, let's talk about the new movement system, because it fucking sucks. The movement system has been modernized for the ADHD-riddled Zoomer generation that grew up on Mountain Dew and Warzone, because in this game, you have no real momentum. You can start and stop running instantly with no downtime or movement penalty, which means that long-range sniping sucks ass now, and half the players you encounter in this game are inevitably going to be spamming A and D until they die of carpal tunnel syndrome. Now, I get why they changed the movement system, because hey, who's going to want to play a game with PUBG's movement system in 2021? But it is still a bit disappointing to see is you can still have high-tempo, skill-based gunfights without having the mobility of Barry Allen on meth and the targetability of a flying mosquito. Not every game has to be like Apex. But at the same time, this game isn't anywhere close to as fast-paced or high-tempo as Apex is. It's just not what I'm used to from Battlefield. I'm also not used to the atrocious, ass-backwards revive changes they made. Those changes can fuck off. They need to go back to BF4's or BF1's system immediately. A big reason why I like Battlefield so much is because of the non-combat supportive roles. I enjoy being a combat medic and ending a game with a quarter of my team's revives. But with this game, they threw that shit out the fucking window by introducing crack ADD gameplay with a revive animation that's slow enough to induce metabolic stasis on whoever dares press E near a teammate. And that's if you don't pick up their class on accident. Those fuckers knew what they were doing. These changes are a net negative that I'd like to see go immediately. Speaking of unnecessary changes that nobody asked for, vehicles. I can't really speak for vehicles that much because I'm not a pilot or a tank driver, but I will say I've seen a lot of negative criticism. Mainly people talking about the control issues, the controller issues, how you can't change the controller layouts, how you can't circle in jets, and how the helicopters just feel off, like they don't have real physics. I was in them a few times and they just didn't feel right, at least compared to BF4s. Wrapping things up now, the map sucked. I really hope the new maps don't suck. The gunplay, solid. The vehicles, mixed. The overall vibe of the open beta, just mixed. It does make me concerned about Battlefield and the future of Battlefield. Obviously, people are going to still pre-order it and buy it, but that doesn't change the fact that I want more. I want the most out of the series. I want just another Battlefield 4. Even though I can still play Battlefield 4, that's just the end goal, and I can see how they were going for that in some ways, but they just introduced too many modern elements that just sort of drag the game down and make it a product of its time, which is disappointing. That's my overall thoughts and critiques of the beta. May do more Battlefield content in the near future when the game comes out, but honestly I don't fucking know. With that being said, my name is Logan aka Frostfire, and I hope you enjoyed the video and the random return to YouTube on a non-league video. I know I've been gone for 9 months, just had a lot of fucking drama, a lot of health issues, had a stalker, crazy shit coming up, may do more videos, may not, we'll see. Thank you.
Yes, harder. Oh, put it in me.